If we do not act against this organized terror, then we know what will happen and what will be the end result. Terrorism's devastation of life will continue to spread. Peaceful societies will become engulfed by violence, and the futures of many generations will be sadly squandered. If we do not stand in uniform condemnation of this killing, then not only will we be judged by our people, not only will we be judged by history, but we will be judged by God.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be.
How do you get to Wonderland? Over the hill or under land? We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. I am Ingersoll Lockwood, and I shall be your guide as we travel through time and space. It all began and lasted for 6 weeks during a hot Philadelphia summer in 1787. Freedom for humanity and the beginning of a great awakening. But where there is good, there is always evil. One cannot exist without the other. Let us fast forward to the trigger years, moments ruled by Luciferians. The first of note was April 14th, 1865 at 10:15 p.m. in the Ford Theater in Washington, D.C. In a flicker of time and space, our great awakening was once again halted by the most corrupt and evil of sorts. Fast forward to a moment shortly after noon on November 22nd, 1963, in Dealey Plaza in downtown Dallas, Texas. Welcome to Bushy Knoll. Down the rabbit hole we go. It's 6:05 p.m. on April 4th, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee. Darkness sets in. A new world order begins to take shape. This timeline fragments into two. A great awakening struggles to live. It is birthed on January 20th, 2017 in Washington, D.C. Yet once again, the Luciferians strike. It's October 18th, 2019. Enter the Great Reset. Event 201. Will they suffocate once and for all humanity's great awakening? The final countdown has begun. I will be traveling forward to explore the possibilities and return to share my findings. 2030 beckons me. While I can offer guidance, only together can the awakened effect the necessary changes to save humanity. My time invested in sharing my knowledge of the timeline with Franklin Patrick Herbert Jr., Steve Samuels, and many other keepers of the flame must not go to waste. It's time. Your time. So much to do, so little time. Time is the fire in which we burn. We're running out of time. The fate of humanity rests in the hands of the awakened. The sleeper must awaken.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, 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 and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever is necessary. The Clintons are criminals, remember that. This is well documented. And the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefit of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family. Instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks, who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
What was JFK really trying to tell us all about Israel? Which, before I go any further, let me just say this is for educational purposes only. Now, before I go any further, okay, this is the most important part of this article that anybody needs to read. Kennedy tried to stop the Israeli nuclear weapons program. This issue was kept so secret that crucial documents and letters have only been released in recent years. And as we should all know, Kennedy was a strong advocate for stopping nuclear proliferation, especially after the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. He realized how easy it would be to intentionally or accidentally trigger a catastrophic nuclear war, something that Israel has recently been threatening Iran with. It really makes you wonder why the US is supplying Israel with billions of more dollars. Well, as you can see here, Kennedy's policies challenge and oppose the military and political ambitions of Zionist Israel. At the time, Israel had only existed for 13 years, okay? Well, as you can see right here, it was still evolving and the course was not totally set. There was a significant international resolve to find a compromise solution regarding Palestinian refugees from the 1948 Nakba. And as you can see, when Israel attacked Egypt, right, they seized the Sinai Peninsula in 1956. The Eisenhower administration demanded Israel withdraw from the captured territory, and they complied. This article describes it perfectly. At this time in the early 1960s, prominent Jewish voices criticized the racism and discrimination of the Israeli government. Israelis like Martin Buber sold Ben-Gurion and noted that at the inception of the state, complete equality with the Jewish citizens was promised to the Arab population. This might give you a little insight as to what's happening in Palestine as well. Many influential Israelis realized their long-term security and well-being depended on finding a just settlement with the indigenous Palestinian population. And in the United States, the Jewish community was divided and many were anti-Zionist. Sounds pretty familiar, right? The American Council for Judaism was influential and anti-nationalist. As you can see, the supposed racist and militaristic character of Israel was not yet set in stone, nor was American Jewish support for Israel. When Menachem Begin, this is an important character, okay, came to the United States in 1948, he was denounced by prominent Jewish leaders, including Albert Einstein. They said Begin, who later became Israeli prime minister, was a terrorist in quotations who preached an admixture of ultranationalism, religious mysticism, and racial superiority. This is the most important part of this entire series of information, okay? There are 4 key areas where the Kennedy policy was substantially different than what followed after his death. And that starts with Kennedy not being biased in favor of Israel. As you can see, the Kennedy administration sought good relations with both Israel and the Arab nations. Kennedy aimed to extend U.S. influence throughout the Middle East, including with nations friendly with the Soviet Union and at odds with NATO partners. And JFK personally supported Arab and African nationalism. But check this out, right? As a senator in 1957, he criticized the Eisenhower administration for supporting and sending weapons to France in their war against the Algerian independence movement. And as we all might remember, in a 9,000-word presentation to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he criticized Western imperialism and called for the U.S. to support Algerian independence. Algerian President Ben Bella, who France had tried to assassinate and considered far too radical by many in NATO, was given a huge and impressive welcome to the White House. That was a big problem, because Kennedy changed the previous frosty relations with the United Arab Republic, Egypt and Syria, and for the first time, the U.S. approved loans to them. Kennedy wrote respectful letters to the Arab presidents before he welcomed Israeli Prime Minister Ben-Gurion to Washington. The Arab leaders could see the difference and responded with appreciation, though. Those who claim there was no difference with Kennedy ignore the fact that Egypt's Nasir, Algeria's Ben Bella, and other nationalist leaders saw a big difference. Now, in 1960, when Kennedy was campaigning for the presidency, okay, with an individual by his side by the name of Pazar, he spoke at the Zionists of America convention. But wait, we'll come back to this. Pazar returned to Washington in 1960 to become a member of John Kennedy's Economic and Foreign Policy Task Force. But he was also an advisor to the State Department, the Senate, and House committees. But get this, right? Pazar was the longtime lawyer and confidant of Robert Maxwell himself, a.k.a. Ghislaine Maxwell's father. Yes, the same exact one that was associated with Jeffrey Epstein. But get this, Pazar was possibly the last person supposedly to speak to Maxwell before he apparently fell to his death from his luxury yacht. And can you guess who Pazar's stepson is? I'm sure that's not ironic, right? Blinken was previously National Security Advisor to Joe Biden when he was Vice President to Barack Obama from 2009 to 2013. But get this, at the convention, JFK made remarks about Israel, but also expressed the need for friendship with all of the people of the Middle East, including Palestinians. saying that the U.S. should act promptly and decisively against any nation in the Middle East which attacks its neighbor, and that the Middle East needs water, not war, tractors, not tanks, and bread, not bombs. Kennedy frankly told the Zionists it cannot believe that Israel has any real desire to remain indefinitely a garrison state surrounded by fear and hate. And by maintaining objectivity and neutrality on the Israeli-Arab conflict, Kennedy wanted to steer the Zionists away from the racist, militaristic, and ultra-nationalistic impulses which have led to where we are today. Kennedy wanted the Zionist lobby to follow the rules, people. This is where it gets serious, okay? The second difference in Kennedy's policies regarding Zionist lobbying on behalf of Israel, something that they might still have yet to do. Under FARA, okay, organizations that promote or lobby on behalf of a foreign government are required to register and account for their finances and activities. So you tell me what you see here from this list of U.S. senators that received money from pro-Israel from 1990 to 2024. Who is that in first place? Coincidentally, that amount just went up as of yesterday. And look who's ironically in third place, right? You tell me where those finances are going. Because it doesn't just go one way, right? Oh, no, sir, it doesn't. As you can see, Mitch McConnell himself is on this list. He's a Republican, as we all know. Charles Schumer, Democrat. John McCain, Republican. Ted Cruz, Republican. Carl Levin. I mean, this list goes on, people, including to your House representatives and senators themselves. So you tell me who's really in control. And you tell me from reading this part of this article why they really want to ban TikTok. In 1939, Kennedy himself spent 2 weeks in Palestine. In a lengthy letter to his father, he described the situation and difficulties. He wrote, the sympathy of the people on the spot seems to be with the Arabs. This is not only because the Jews have had at least some of their leaders an unfortunately arrogant, uncompromising attitude, but they feel that after all, the country has been Arabic for the last few hundred years, and that it was hardly Britain's to give. Now let's keep in mind, Rishi Sunak, aka Britain's prime minister, just recently had a very secretive meeting with Barack Obama himself, and nobody seemed to be questioning anything about it. On November 21st, 1963, the day before Kennedy's assassination, people. As you can see, the New York Times had two different stories which exemplified the discord between Washington and Tel Aviv, with a report from the United Nations being titled Israel Dissents as UN Group Backs U.S. on Arab Refugees. It begins a United States resolution calling for continued efforts to resolve the predicament of the Palestinian Arab refugees was approved tonight 83-1, with Israel themselves casting the single negative vote, people. With the second New York story being titled, The U.S. Stand Angers Israel. As you can see here, I'm pretty sure it's obvious what JFK was trying to tell us, and you don't need me to read it off for you. A year before Kennedy died, intelligence indicated that Israel might be trying to build a nuclear weapon at Dimona in 1962. And Kennedy was determined to find out if this was true, and if so, to stop it. And this caused an intense diplomatic confrontation between JFK and Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, with the proof of this recently being revealed in the exchange of letters between Kennedy and Prime Minister Ben-Gurion himself. But I mean, come on, people, this is Mike Gallagher, okay, a Republican representative. The person who sponsored the original TikTok ban bill that didn't get passed through the Senate. The same exact one that was forced to be included in the foreign aid package bill for Ukraine and Israel themselves. With that right there being his top contributor. You tell me that's not ironic. And then after you're done, tell me who's really in control.
Well, that's a good way to start the day, isn't it?
It's always a good way, man. I'm telling you.
That's people just don't realize the extent of this, where it comes to JFK, what precipitated his assassination, and when you listen to Trump speak and he talks about, the things that have been hidden and things like that, this is one of those things, if and it was the nuclear proliferation was the biggest one, but everybody else fell in line with the assassination because of the fact that Kennedy opposed the coup of Castro or of the Cuban hierarchy at that time, and it appears that all of these things are all coincided. So it shows the obvious connection between the CIA and the Mossad. Very clearly shows the connection between the two, and in that same move, banks became even more powerful because of it, and when I do my podcast tomorrow, I'll be covering where the Ben-Gurion line comes from, for real, because what people don't realize is that Ben Gurion was he's a child of Cain, from the bloodline of Cain. And there's man, I tell you, this stuff is getting so deep right now that makes you want to pull your hair out. But looking at the financial side of everything right now, it shows clearly who has been in control monetarily, not just on the Rothschild side, but in other venues of the what is called the Israeli state. So. But sorry, the dogs might be a little loud because I have free and loose puppies all over the place in here. They have tore a hole in the side of the whelping box and have escaped.
I know what that's like, man. My dogs are kind of being loud today too. So, and they're outside and I can hear them. So, so I get it. But yeah, it's funny that you're talking about, money and control and stuff like that. Because that's a lot of what I'm actually going to be going over today. There's a lot of things going on as far as money goes that's been kind of kept from the public. Just by a show of, give me a thumbs up if you have ever heard of the Federal Financial Bank. And give me a thumbs down if you haven't.
Don't be whining about it. You helped to break them out. You got to deal with it now. Explain. Oh, we're going to.
Oh, and another thing I'm going to go into is how many people have ever heard of the Enablers Act? That's another one. And TJ, no, not the Federal Reserve, but the Treasury. That's where that comes from, and I'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so it looks like
you should give an explanation.
Okay, the Federal Financial Bank is a small department of the U.S. Treasury, okay, that's composed of 5 board members, only 5, and the head of the board, so the chairman, is always the Secretary of Treasury.
And never elected into that position.
Exactly.
Always.
They are always appointed by the President of the United States. And I'll go into that in a minute. Because I've actually got the guidelines and all that stuff, and it's kind of wow. So there's that. Now, when Trump was in office, all right, according to what everybody sees now, publicly, when Trump was in office, the head of the board was Steve Mnuchin. And also on the board was Justin Muzinich. He was the Deputy Secretary of the Treasury. Brent McIntosh was the General Counsel of the Treasury. David LeBrick was the Fiscal Assistant Secretary, and Gary Grippo was the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Finance. And then we also have Christopher Tuttle. He wasn't on the board, but he was the CFO for the Federal Financial Bank. So we have that. And the only way that I was able to get this medicine or this information, God bless my wife, she spent a couple of hours last night going down the rabbit hole with me trying to find this stuff out. And I'll explain how I got there with the, going to the Federal Financial Bank and all that stuff in a minute. But yeah. And she was like, "Oh, wait, what?" And the only reason we were able to get this information was because somebody had done a FOIA request, because none of this is public. Okay, none of it. You have to do a FOIA request for this stuff. Uh, and I can actually show you the minutes if you want. I can show you the minutes from the one of the things, to which it wasn't even a complete copy of the minutes. All right, because they gave the reason of I'm releasing 2 pages in full and 2 pages in part. The withheld information is protected from disclosure under FOIA pursuant 5 USC subsection 552 at B5 and B6. Now, if you look at B5 and B6, one of them doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because it's talking about medical exceptions and stuff like that, which, as far as I can tell, there was none. And why would they be talking about medical exceptions at the Federal Financial Bank? All right, so there's that. And yes, I will share that on Twitter. You talk about the minutes, Freedom Fields. That's not a problem. I can scan them in this afternoon and get them uploaded. That is not a problem. I am more than happy to do it. So yeah, and now if we look at the new board members, for instance, of the Federal Financial Bank, we have Janet Yellen, Secretary of Treasury, Wally Adeyemo, which is the Deputy Secretary of Treasury. So far it's following suit from the last one, right? Then we have Neil McBride, which is General Counsel. And then we have David LeBrick, which is the Fiscal Assistant Secretary. And then we also have Gary Grippo still as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Finance. So we still have those, and we still have Christopher Tuttle as the CFO. So now there's a lot that comes into play here, and I'm going to go into the people of the U.S. Treasury and all that stuff, and you're going to see that a lot of these folks actually come from, and they talk about the Brookings Institute. Wally Adeyemo, he was actually, it even says this on the Treasury page, that he was responsible in part for the crash of 2008. So, in the solution. So, and they all have Democratic ties to Biden, Harris, and Obama. So that's really a big thing. And Yellen has ties going all the way back to Clinton. So it's just a matter of people finding out and actually seeing this information for themselves. And like I said, in order to get the minutes, somebody had to do a FOIA request and then posted the minutes on the internet for people to find. And those minutes were from 2019. So, all right. So with that, Hawk, as I'm pulling some stuff up here, you have anything?
Well, I have all kinds of annoying things where the financial system's concerned, no, but where everything else is, oh yeah.
And yes, TJ, Steve Mnuchin is a film producer. Still a film producer. So, and speaking of gold and silver, Elaine, I've been seeing rumblings on Twitter, on TikTok, and even here on YouTube in some places about a possible reevaluation of silver getting ready to happen this following Monday. I'm not betting the bank on it, but I'm just saying there are ramblings about it.
Okay. All right. Well, I got a couple of things I can show while you're getting your stuff together.
All right.
One very, very important one. Tennessee passes death penalty for child rapists. And I'd like to see a very round big, huge applause for
The
that.
death penalty is incompatible with the right to life. Let me say that again. The death penalty is incompatible with the right to life. It violates the constitutional ban on cruel and unusual punishment and guarantees of due process of law and equal protection under the law. My question for you, Leader Lamberth, is do you feel the death penalty repairs the harm caused by this unlawful behavior and is informed by what juvenile survivors of this crime need?
Hello, Mr. Lambert. I heard you on the radio. I thank you for working on this bill. I will soon be 69 years old. I was molested and raped by my grandfather starting at the age of 6 years old and older. He assaulted my mother and her sister. He tried to molest my 2-year-old niece and grabbed her away from him and told everyone there, he is not going to touch this child. Even at almost 63, this was happening to me. It still bothers me. It never goes away, no matter what age a victim is. Since he was my grandfather, I would agree to the death penalty even for him.
It looks like Hawk might have froze. He'll be back in a minute. But until he comes back, um, it. So when I was talking about the Federal Financial Bank, I'm gonna go around. I'm gonna kind of do a loop around and come back to it. And how I actually got there was when I was reading through the legislation from this last Saturday, which is an absolute disgrace, especially the behavior of the House. Still makes me sick at my stomach. Words cannot express how sick at my stomach it made me. Um, I read that legislation. It took me to another place, which took me to another place, which took me to another place, which eventually led me to the Federal Financial Bank. So it is one of those things that is it's hidden. Now, my question is, it's supposed to be a public institution, public department of the U.S. Treasury. Why are people having to FOIA, do FOIA requests for information on different things on that? And why can't people find out the board without requesting the minutes? I think those are all viable questions. Now, I will say this. I understand for just for a second, keeping some things under wraps, right? Like things that have to do with national security, for instance, like you're not going to tell a terrorist you're going to raid their encampment, right? You're not going to do that kind of stuff. They're not going to release that kind of information. I get that. Operational security. Okay. But when it comes to things that will affect we the people, as far as legislation and different executive orders, different things monetarily, we the people have the power of the purse. That's what the House is designed for. The House of Representatives are supposed to be a direct representation of us, the people. And we're not getting that at all. So, and I urge you to call your representatives, explain your disgust to them, and make sure you have substance to what you're trying to tell them. Because without substance, they're just going to take you as a loon and they're just going to kind of pass you off to whatever. So, it's one of those things that people don't do enough of. People have gotten away from keeping their government in check. People have gotten away from actually coming in and doing what they need to be doing. They've gotten lazy about it. I'm not saying any of you have. I'm saying in general. And we no longer hold them accountable for what they're doing or not doing. Instead, they're worried about passing legislation to honor a graveyard or name a building or a street instead of taking care of we the people. Do I think those things are important? Yeah, they're kind of important, but they take a back burner to what the people actually need. So, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tirade here, and I don't mean to be. So, how many of you folks knew that in 2021, and I'm just going to say this, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm the best, I'm for the best person for the job, right? Now, in 2021, there was a bill put in the House of Representatives called the Enablers Act, which is going to close the loopholes in money laundering. Okay. And it was even going to stop the government from money laundering. All right. It was put in by Malinowski. He's from the Northeast somewhere. And it was voted on, sent to committee, where it died in committee. Oh, you're back.
I think I'm back. Not positive yet. I poofed. Overheat. Yeah. Oh yeah. It did not want to fire back up. So I got the laptop out, and I'm hoping that, I'm hoping it'll hold up. So all right. I have no idea where we were.
You were playing it looked like a video on.
From the
West. Yeah.
Yeah, from Tennessee, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second to dang puppies. Okay, let's try this again. I was like, wow, nobody wants to see that one.
Bothers me. It never goes away, no matter what age a victim is. Since he was my grandfather, I would agree to the death penalty even for him. He molested many generations, and this needs to stop because this act to the victims, it never goes away. I support the death penalty against child rapists and child molesters. A child is counting on you to keep the child safe. Thank you, and I hope you get this bill passed. Absolutely, it's a deterrent. Let it go forth from Mountain City to Memphis. If you rape a child in this state, you are forfeiting your own life, period.
Once again, I'm not trying to negate the lived experiences of these survivors of violent crime. I'm not. But don't you feel if a young child knows that their abuser is going to receive the death penalty, that it would deter them from reporting?
Directly from a survivor. My sister and I were abused by my father from a very young age. I just wanted you to know that I appreciate you pushing for the death penalty. I don't think it will stop people from telling about their abuse. Thanks. And then she lists her name. She's lived it. I trust her.
Oh, sorry. Representative Bain.
I mean, you can read testimonies again and again across the state, but the state intervening to kill a human being does nothing to deter the crime. It does nothing to heal the survivor. The state is intervening as a violent actor and ending a human life, which is not pro-life. And I'm not defending these individuals. I'm not.
Now notice what she said there. Okay, listen to what she said there. She says you're asking the state to do a violent act. Okay, and and then what was that last statement that she made there? Let's listen to it again.
Not. And I'm not defending life, which is not pro-life. And I'm not defending these individuals. I'm not.
Yes, she is defending these individuals. Okay. Because a predator is always going to remain a predator. Always. Okay. Now, we've talked about this on my podcast, that as a person who has gone through this, okay, that you have two options after you have been abused in this way. Okay. Either you are a predator yourself, or you become a warrior of justice for those who are abused. Okay. And this woman is standing on the floor in Nashville defending the lives of people who are abusing children continuously. Okay. The people who gave their testimonies to the Senate or the Congress there in Tennessee did so. And in each of those stories, it is a long-term abuse, not just happening one time. Okay. It's happening time after time after time after time. This is abuse that is systemic in their childhood. All right, let's finish.
Not. I'm going to cede the ground to my colleagues. Thank you.
Lear Lambert.
Oh, no, we're not done yet. For almost 50 years, I've been praying for Tennessee to issue the death penalty for child rapists. Most people do not understand. The child's life has been killed in the direction it was headed. No amount of therapy can change that. Yes, therapy can help the victim go forward in life, but the life they would have had before is now dead. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart and soul, a mom and grandmama. The atrocities that they have suffered deserve the severest of punishment. If the death penalty is an option in any case, it should be an option for those that rape children.
In favor of Senate Bill 1834, as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 77, 19 nays, one present, not voting.
Senate Bill 1834, having received constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed by objection. Most reconsider table.
So 19 members of the House of Representatives of Tennessee fought against it, voted against it, but everybody else voted for it. So, folks, find out who your local representative there in Tennessee, if you live in Tennessee, find out who your local representative is, see where they voted, okay, and show your support. It is, like I said, this is a systemic problem, and in this particular type of culture, it does affect you for the rest of your life. There is not a day that goes by that I do not think about what happened to me. And there's, people say, well, you just need to get past it. No, I don't need to get past it. What I need to do is share it and then do everything that I can in order to stand for others that are willing to share their testimony. Okay. Because it's and to do everything that we can in order to support these laws that protect the child, and I mean child is, it doesn't matter whether you're 16 or if you're 6 months old. Okay. you know, from birth until you're 18 years old, you know, should be the safest and most fruitful and righteous, you know, happiness, joy, you know, those things are all taken away from you. You know, you can find moments of laughter, but you can't ever truly be happy when you have this dark cloud that constantly you know, moves in and creates a new storm for you every single day. And Bonnie is right. Yes, it affects your relationships as well. You know, it's hard to go into a relationship because your understanding of love is a lot different than theirs, you know. And it is something that it destroys marriages. It destroys marriages. You know, you think you're going to go and you're going to have a happy life and everything, but then these memories creep up. And when these memories creep up, it creates this divide in your relationship. And then it's, you know, and then you have this, uh, you know, forbearance that continuously makes that divide greater and greater and greater until finally then comes divorce and you find yourself spending all your time alone, you know, because your trust in the human nature is gone. It's gone, you know, and it shouldn't have to be that way, you know. So you got your stuff together there, Slow, or you want me to keep going?
Yeah, man, I think we're good. I
Okay.
think we're good. And that comes back to what I was saying earlier, you know, when I was going on my little tirade, that call your representatives, call your senators, express your thoughts, make it known. But when you express your thoughts, make sure that they are substantive in nature and easy to follow. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is they're going to think you're a loon and they're just going to kind of brush you off. They're not going to care. So make your opinions known, whether you're for or against something. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on about it. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle they're on. They are your representative. They work for you. We will never work for them. I have politicians run from me when all this happens because they can't get off the phone fast enough with me because I'm just dropping thing after thing after thing after thing. And I tell them, don't try to bullshit me because I've ran the numbers. I've read the legislation. I've read this. I've read that. And when you start talking about that and you're being very substantive and firm in what you're saying, they run because they don't like to hear it because you're breaking their bubble. So, all right, now back to where I was at. So in 2021, there was a bill that was introduced in the House called the Enablers Act. It's HR 5525 Hawk. We've talked about this. And oh man, it was going to cut out all of the loopholes about money laundering, and it was actually going to stop the government from money laundering too. So, and I'm going to pull
was
that.
where it was going to be loans instead of just giving the money to the country. Everything would be established as a loan. You know, even though there wasn't like a time set on the loan as to when they had to pay it back, it made it so that they would have to pay it back eventually.
Yes. Now, and it's 5525. I'm going to pull this up here and I'm going to share this in the chat with everybody. And Hawk, I'm going to send it over to you in the private chat so you can share it with your group.
Oh, they're going to see it. Whatever you put on the screen, they're going to see.
And Let's see here. Let me go in here. And I'm going to pull everything up because everybody has a right to know about this, and everybody needs to be finding out why they let this thing die. And it was a Democrat that introduced it, and it died in a Democrat committee. And coincidentally, this was 5 months before we started sending the first money to Ukraine. Coincidentally. So let's see here. All right, here we go. Present. Go ahead and blow this up to where everybody can see it. And there we go. Now, hopefully everybody can read this. So rulemaking in general, not later than December 31st, 2023, the Secretary of Treasury shall repeal Section 103.170 of Title 31 Code of Federal Regulations relating to exemptions for certain financial institutions. Okay, so that was going to be repealed. Now let me pull that up for you. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Drop this in the chat and I'll read it to everybody. All right, so blow this up too. One more. There we go. All right, so 103.170 exempted anti-money laundering programs for certain financial institutions. So these are the institutions that are exempt, all right? And that bill wanted all of these just wiped out, like just closed off completely. So exempt financial institutions, subject to the provisions of paragraphs C and D of this section, the following financial institutions are defined in 31 USC 5312 A2 or C1, are exempt from the requirement in 31 USC 5318 concerning the establishment of anti-money laundering programs. So these places didn't have to enforce anti-money laundering. All right. An agency of the United States government, I want to say that again, an agency of the United States government is exempt, all right, from anti-money laundering programs, or of a state or local government carrying out a duty or power of a business described in 31 USC 5312. Let me read that whole paragraph again so that way everybody kind of can really grasp at this. An agency of the United States government or of a state or local government carrying out a duty or power of a business described in 31 United States Code 5312 A2. That's just the first part. Okay, that's just the first part of 170 that they wanted repealed. All right, a temporary exemption for certain financial institutions subject to the provisions of paragraphs C and D of this section. The following financial institutions, as defined in 31 United States Code 5312 A2 or C1, are exempt from the requirement in 31 USC 5318 H1 concerning the establishment of anti-money laundering programs. A dealer in precious metals, stones, or jewels, a pawnbroker, loan or finance company, a travel agency, how convenient, a telegraph company, a seller of vehicles, including automobiles, airplanes, and boats, a person involved in real estate closings and settlements, a private banker, insurance company. And y'all know I went on tirades about insurance companies before. Commodity pool operator, commodity trading advisor, or investment company. So there's a lot. They were getting rid of this whole section right here to where nobody would be exempt from anti-money laundering programs. But it died in committee. Imagine that. So, and we come back here. Okay. The Secretary of Treasury shall issue one or more rules to require all financial institutions. Oh, I forgot to share the tab. Oops. As defined in Section 5312A2 of Title 31 United States Code, that have not already done so to report suspicious transactions under Section 5318G of Title 31. Now, in this, I could be wrong here. Correct me if I am, because I do not like putting out bad information, right? Isn't that about the time that it was coming out where Chase Bank was reporting the suspicious transactions of a certain president's son? That was getting reported on. Not that that's the time it was getting reported, but that's when people were starting to talk about it. All right, which was 2021. All right, 2022. Establish due diligence policies, procedures, and controls under Section 5318. Identify and verify their account holders. And then we have the trust and company, providers. So, I mean, this was a very good bill, and it should have gotten passed and not allowed to die. And that's what happened. They allowed it to die. So, Hawk, your thoughts?
Well, that's the thing with these committees, is that if there's no line of protection for the people in Congress or in the Senate or even in the White House or the administration, then they're going to do everything that they can to abolish it, and that's the real shame of all of this, is because look at the wealth that these people gather while in office, which isn't supposed to happen, was never supposed to happen. Our government wasn't set up that way. So crooked is the only thing that comes to mind, is doing everything that they can to protect their own, and how much they can make while they're there. So it's, and exemptions wise, this is all stuff that should have been released to the public to begin with. And if it had been, I think that people would see things, especially where the banking industry is concerned, a totally different way.
So I want to make note here that at the time that it died in committee, I'm blowing this up so everybody can read it. Maxine Waters was the chair of the committee.
Yep.
That it died in. I just want to make that known. And other members of the committee, Patrick McHenry, we know he's a piece of garbage. Let's see, Andy Barr, another one. Ted Budd of North Carolina, with his voting record here lately. I don't know. Rashida Tlaib. And let's see. Carolyn Maloney, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So yeah, this is the complete roster. I will drop it in the chat for everybody, so you can see it for yourself. And this is the committee that allowed it to die. So I just want to make that known.
Yeah, they haven't had the American people's interest, since a minimum of 1963. The American people's interest, it has wavered and fallen. It's all personal interest now, or their own political agenda. Yeah, and it's ridiculous.
Oh, I agree. So yeah. So now, when I called my representative right on Monday, oh man, they were not happy to hear from me. They weren't. And I'm glad you said that, Jerry Lee, because I'm going to go into that in a little bit too. So, so when I called my representative on Monday, I was specifically talking about the Ukraine bill and how disgusting it was for the show of Ukrainian pride on the House floor. I made it known. I was very stern. I was angry about it. And I said, we both know this is nothing more than a money laundering operation, because I followed the numbers from 2021 and 2022, that the numbers that went to the Ukraine, a third of it was cycled back to political parties back here in the States through FTX. And I said, and all this is a money laundering operation. That's all this is. And I can prove it. I've followed the numbers. Have you? There was dead silence on the other side. And there was finally a response saying, oh, well, I would like to read you the official statement from Rudy Yakum about why he voted the way he did. And he was blaming Russia. Okay. And then I come back with, you do realize that Russia actually isn't the enemy here. They've been trying to get rid of corruption, just like the Republicans have been supposed to be doing for the last 20 years. Once again, dead silence. And then I said, you know what? You need to have the Enablers Act reintroduced as a bill and have it passed to get rid of the money laundering schemes that have been going on for years. And she still couldn't get off the phone. Every time she tried to get off the phone, I would start saying something else. So she couldn't get off the phone because she needed to know exactly what I was talking about and where I was coming from, not only as a veteran, but also as a tax-paying member that pays them. And I said, you guys work for me. I don't work for you. I don't have to pay taxes. I'm actually tax-free. I'm tax exempt for the rest of my life. Oh boy. They don't like it. They don't. Until everybody starts doing that, they're not going to learn. So, all right. So, Hawk, I got a brain fart. Can you, while I get my bearings back?
Sure. I'm sure I can come up with something here. Let's see. You want? Shall we give him let's give him a feel good moment.
All right.
I thought that this was really cool. Teachers at this school raised money to get this man, who is a janitor of the school, a car after watching him walk to and from work every single day. Watch his reaction and listen to what he says at the end.
You still got left. You still got your money? I think I'm wrong.
1,500.
Sure, baby. It was a little bit more. And so the school got together and we raised the rest of the money. And it's yours. We love you.
We love you,
Chris.
Chris.
We love you.
God. There is a God. Oh, my stars. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I thank you. Oh, I thank you. Oh, thank you.
Oh, it's all the people.
Thank you. Just
There's
let you
a lot
know
of
that
love
what
here.
they say about people is not real.
Sometimes it's what the community can do that makes it all worth it. Makes it all. Okay, this is another one I want to share with you guys, and I want you to listen very, very closely. This is Associate Justice Alina Kagan speaking with Trump's attorney, John Sawyer. Okay, listen very, very closely.
Well, he's gone. Let's say this president who ordered the military to stage a coup. He's no longer president. He wasn't impeached. He couldn't be impeached. But he ordered the military to stage a coup, and you're saying that's an official act.
I think it would depend.
That's immune.
I think it would depend on the circumstances whether it was an official act. If it were an official act, again, he would have to be.
Well, what does that mean? Depend on the circumstances. He was the president. He is the commander in chief. He is the commander in chief. He is the commander in chief. He talks to his generals all the time. He talks to his generals all the time. And he told the generals, I don't feel like leaving office. I want to stage a coup. Is that immune?
If it's an official act, there needs to be impeachment and conviction beforehand because the framers viewed that kind of.
If it's an official act, is it an official act? It sounds to me as though it's like, yeah, under my test, it's an official act. But
we are transferring power from Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, the people.
You guys know what this represents? Well, it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm is
We have the world's great military people in this room. I will tell you that.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Give us a hint.
So the office of the commander-in-chief, okay, now at the time that George Washington became president, okay, he was in fact the commander-in-chief of the military here in the United States, okay. He had command of all American militia as well as the armed services of that period of time. Okay. So what happened was when John Adams went into office, John Adams kept George Washington as his as the commander-in-chief, okay, of the armed forces, and Adams remained or was president. Now, when Hamilton came into office, once again, those two offices were merged together. At the same time, is when the president also became the head of the Treasury as well. It wasn't until the early 1900s that the Treasury was in fact separated from the office of the presidency. The president could assign or select someone to be the head of the Treasury. but it was taken out of the president's hand. But Hamilton had control of, both the military, the United States as president, and at that time still had control of the U.S. Treasury. So it's kind of funny how all those things all come together. But I thought that was very interesting that this woman was stating that he is in fact the commander in chief outside of the presidency. And I thought that was kind of very, very interesting. Where the somebody was asking just a second ago, where did it go? How old is that commander-in-chief video? This was in the hearing yesterday. That was Patrick. That was yesterday during the hearing. This is for the immunity trial or hearing that's going on in the Supreme Court of the United States. So she is an associate justice, which means that they can question. They just, but they provide context to the other justices in regards to, just having more questions that maybe the justices themselves did not think about asking themselves. So, so I thought that was very interesting. Now, this one here I found very interesting. I mean, therefore I am says even female Democrats recognize the harm Biden's policies pose to young girls and women. Kudos to her for prioritizing what's right over party loyalty. Take a good listen to this woman, and it's I thought that this was.
Well, in America today, I know I'm more of a woman than ever. Why do I know this? Because my own Democratic Party ignored hundreds of thousands of comments and concerns about Title IX and changing from making it sex-based to quote-unquote gender-based. The ramifications are already happening because states like mine in California have already decided gender trumps women's sex-based rights. Males are already identifying into women's sports and girls' sports in high school. Concussions, broken fingers, other injuries are already happening to women. In California's women's prison, men are already saying they're women so that they can be in the women's prison, and rapes are occurring. The most famous example of a male identifying into the women's prison is Dana Rivers. Dana Rivers is a man who murdered 2 lesbians and their child as a woman. I don't know a lot of triple murderer women. There's probably a few, but there's a lot more men that hate women. And now they're using gender identity in quotes to harass them, to rape them, to take away spaces and opportunities for them. It's not a good day to be a woman in America, but I feel like more than a woman than ever because nobody's listening. Everybody ignored us. President Biden is listening to males pretending to be women and taking that advice over 51% of the population. That doesn't include kids who are really being harmed by this ideology. So it's a horrible day to be a woman in America. Not much different, but now it's in law that we really, really have no rights. But gender identity people do. We're fighting back hard.
Yep. And the thing is if Biden has his way, that will go on to everybody. Now, this is another thing where the great divide in our country comes from. Doesn't just stem from our news, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, all that, but it also stems from social media as well. It almost makes you think that, maybe the internet should just be turned off, until people learn how to use it properly. But take a listen.
So do you want to know what I think? I genuinely think we're not as divided as what social media and the news makes us think. Two of the most hated people on the planet right now are politicians and the media. They're trying to divide us and they're lying to us, and people know this. 3 to 4 years ago, people didn't have a clue, but more and more people are waking up. More and more people don't give a shit what the news say or do. They don't matter anymore, and they certainly don't have as much power and influence as they think they do. And once you understand that they're not journalists or media professionals, but rather actors and operatives, everything starts to make sense. But we've definitely got a decision to make as a society. We are all on the same team. There are more of us than there are of them. It's the ones who control society who are not on our team. And I genuinely think we need to put a stop to this madness before it gets any worse. And I can feel something big coming. Don't know if it's going to be a revolution or what, but people are getting pissed off more and more by the day.
And she's right. People are getting pissed off more and more every single day. Now, let's talk about this. The Special Prosecutor's Office in Guatemala just raided the Save the Children NGO. Would you guys like to know who was the board chairman for Save the Children NGO? None other than Jill Biden. Yeah, this comes shortly after warnings from Guatemala's AG office that NGOs are trafficking kids through the U.S. border. Jill Biden was previously a board chair for the Save the Children NGO. Special Prosecutor's Office Against Impunity, FECI, in coordination with the PNC de Guatemala, is conducting a raid, inspection, search, and seizure of evidence at the headquarters. I wonder if this is going to lead anything back to the Bidens. Okay, here's a funny for you. This is kind of funny about how Donald Trump got a hold of Mar-a-Lago.
Love him or hate him, Trump's Mar-a-Lago acquisition was a great real estate deal, and his tactics will make you love or hate him more. In 1927, Marjorie Merriweather Post, heiress to the Postrum cereal company, built Mar-a-Lago, meaning from sea to lake, when she decided her other Florida home was too small for parties. The 58-bed, 33-bath complex in Palm Beach cost $7 million, which is about $120 million in today's money, and she threw some epic parties there hosting celebrities and diplomats alike. Upon her death in 1973, she willed it to the U.S. government, wishing it to become a winter White House. However, it was too costly to maintain, and the government gave it back to the estate, which put it up for sale in 1983 with a minimum asking price of $20 million plus $8 million for the furniture. Donald Trump had been hunting for a Palm Beach home at that time and put in an offer for $15 million. It was rejected, so he bought the property between Mar-a-Lago and the ocean for $2 million, and publicly stated his intention to build a house blocking Mar-a-Lago's view. Other buyers backed out, and Trump's second offer for $5 million was accepted. He paid an additional $3 million for the furniture. Eventually, he did turn it into a winter White House.
So basically what they're saying is Donald Trump got Mar-a-Lago for $8 million. Okay. When he offered them to pay what they wanted, okay, minus about $2 million, okay, but he got it for $8 million, and he had spent $2 million on the additional property that that was between Mar-a-Lago's property and the beach. I think that's friggin' genius. The art of the deal. It's when you look at stuff like this, you begin to realize, whoa, wait a second here. This is a lot. It's oh yeah. I think that was freaking crazy. Okay. This is do you remember the picture of the girl with panda eyes? Okay. Well, this little girl right here is that girl. And let's now they state that her panda eyes came from something else, but we know where it came from. Here we go.
Nema Abu-Khoury, whom I met in the Shiva hospital at the height of the war a year ago.
Her horribly bruised panda eyes were impossible to forget. Today, we found her again, now safely in her father's arms, her eyes recovered. But now she twitches a little and wets the bed at night. She's somehow impressed with the photos her father kept of her. At just 4 years old, Nema is a symbol of resilience and recovery. But how many others will be so lucky? Nema Adofu.
So basically, they're stating that came from war, but we know where it came from. We know what causes that, what affects that. But to see her smile and with her father is nothing but a blessing, So Ghost of Ezra says, we're going to keep covering this stuff because the fact that nobody else is. Okay. Ghost of Ezra or Shadow of Ezra says this pedophile was caught on camera in Sheffield, England. In England, guys. Those of you that are in the UK that are tuned in right now. Okay. Let's blow this up. Take a look.
What's all this about?
One of the sort of favourites, one of the targets, and some players don't go for being a target.
Yeah. Right out there in the public. Yep. Right out there in the public. So, should people be able to get away with mocking God? Well, Lady Gaga did. She mocked God, and look at what happened.
Something crazy happened to Lady Gaga at a concert. Check this out. In this song called Judas, she claims to be in love with the disciple who betrayed Jesus. She openly mocks repentance, saying that in a biblical sense, she's too far gone, and that Judas is actually the demon that she clings to. And then this happens. This pole slams on her head, forces her to shut down the concert, giving her a concussion. She openly mocks the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And the Bible says God will not be mocked. If you know that Jesus Christ is King, share this and follow for more.
Don't mock God. Don't mock God, because you're going to learn real quick. All right. So Trump's statement, Stormy Daniels hush money hoax trial, 4/26, 2024. Imagine having to say happy birthday to your wife from a hoax trial in an intentionally freezing courtroom for a porn star. God bless this man. Here we go.
By wishing my wife, Melania, a very happy birthday. It'd be nice to be with her, but I'm in a courthouse for a rig trial. It's a rig trial. Terrible. But we're doing very well in this rig trial. Everybody knows it. Yesterday was a big day, but I do have to begin by wishing Melania happy birthday. She's in Florida. I'll be going there this evening after this case finishes up, this horrible, unconstitutional case. When it finishes up, we have a report that was just put out by House Judiciary on the District Attorney's Office. This was done by Congress, and so I guess it just came out a little while ago, a few moments ago. I haven't seen it yet, I haven't read it, but it should be interesting. I think yesterday went very well in this courthouse. It should be over. The case is over. You heard what was said, and the case should be over. But you'll have to make that determination. I think we have a judge that will never allow this case to be over in a positive way. He's highly conflicted, the most highly conflicted judge I've ever seen. And yesterday, I think in the Supreme Court having to do with immunity, I heard the argument was brilliant. I listened to it last night. I thought it was really great. I thought the judge's questions were great. And all presidents have to have immunity. It has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing. All presidents have to have immunity. You don't have a president, certainly not a president that the founders wanted. So we have another day of court in a freezing courthouse. It's very cold in there, on purpose, I believe. They don't seem to be able to get the temperature up. It shouldn't be that complicated, but we have a freezing courthouse, and that's fine. That's just fine. Let them keep handing it out. There's a rigged trial. Thank you very much, everybody.
You just got to love the stupid questions that come flying out of these reporters as he's walking away, right? You know, I shared this post this morning. Those that scream the loudest outside the Matrix, aka Crash, Harry had questions. Did Derek ever answer what this is about? RGB or RJG, who is Russell J. Gould, says no one's coming to save us. Derek says the military is in control. What's going on? And what was that fight at the end, real or staged? Derek screamed so loud he about broke the speakers. They had to tell him to stop. The person I spoke to that attended this truth tour said that there was a dark presence. The feeling of feds and drugs made them very uneasy. They ended up feeling so overwhelmed by the darkness, they had to leave.
What's going on here, mate? What's this about?
The military, we're talking about drug trafficking, child trafficking, human trafficking, money laundering. Do you know how much shit that is? Sorry, Mom, but you know how much shit this is? You can't just open it up just that quick to everybody. This is a massive operation. We're talking about dumbs all over the world, okay? There's certain things that I've seen that's classified. We're not supposed, oh yeah, laugh, asshole.
So this all come after that really weird, strange talk with that Russell Gould. And he was saying some very strange stuff.
I said, no one's coming to help. So you better be ready. Not going to sugarcoat this for any of you guys. There's a lot of bad actors in the theater right now. And I've had conversations with the top people in the world. I don't think for a second they don't want to chip you all. I don't think for a second they don't want to kill you all. Any agents in here, you already know what's up. And it's not pretty. And what you've done to my family and me, the blood feud is here. Up because I'm the guy walking in the door, telling you a secret service what little pussy motherfuckers they are, setting the tone. They said, Russell, why do you always talk to us like that? I said, it's not me talking, it's the millions you're fucking. I'm looking forward to all your family dying. And all of you in the background and anybody who wants to make fun of me, step on up, walk a day in my shoes, walk into my court venues, walk into my post offices, walk into my banks, and you'll find out who Daddy is. And you'll find out your ass is locked up or getting shot, period. This is a very serious game. These are very serious people. They mean to hurt you. You must learn how to be sovereign to yourself and to your loved ones and your families because they are very gifted people. And the technology that they have is unfair to us, the people. So guard your thoughts. Guard your energy.
And then you had Jason Koo in the crowd who looked really stressed.
It comes up to education, ma'am. Yes, it's education.
Without that knowledge, we don't have any power. We have to understand. I mean, this is bigger than anybody could realize. You know, we focus on the kids. Yes, it's about the kids, but we're all kids in this.
And then they kept talking about weird things the whole time. And then all of a sudden, Derek comes out with this.
No, everybody wants a little pat on the back. And you want some guy to tell you about education. It's not about education. The military, they're in control of this country right now. It's called a Law and Order Manual, page 754 to 838. So this man right here has to start answering why everybody has died in vain. Because if the military don't mean shit, then everybody died in vain. And you people ain't doing nothing about it. Nothing about it, because you didn't command these National Guard out of their state right now. Not only are they out of their state, but they're out of this country. And it's people's husbands, wives, children. And he has to explain why the Marines who had these aircraft crashes that died. It explained to them that they died in vain. The only people who can do this are we the people. Now, it can't be a pep rally talk. Okay? That is where Jason Q is right. We have to fight for it. America is an idea on a piece of paper. But we know we have a foundation. And if we want to keep that foundation,
It ain't got shit to do with if you're gay, straight, Buddha, Christian, or whatever it is. But if you want sovereignty like this guy claims, dude, you gotta fight for it. And I don't see him doing shit about it on the border. He ain't doing shit about it with the National Guard. There's somebody called Commander-in-Chief Trump who is. And if you don't understand war, then I'm sorry. You're going to have to talk to me and some people who have been in war and some people who really know about war and battled in war. Okay.
Okay, so I got to pause this right here. So Derek Johnson has never been to war. Never. He did 3 years stateside and then was discharged. Okay. He's never been to war. So who is he to say that you need to talk to me tomorrow when I do my podcast? I will be covering a podcast from Rumble that basically exposes Derek Johnson. And it gives a voice to a bunch of the veterans, the guys who've really been in combat, the guys who have put their lives on the line for their country. Okay. They have some things to say about Derek Johnson and to Derek Johnson. Yeah, it's going to be something else. You guys are going to love it. I won't be able to do it today. I got a bunch of stuff going on after we finish this podcast. But this year, let's go ahead and let's finish it.
Everybody wants a J.G. Wentworth government. You ever seen a commercial about J.G. Wentworth? It's my money and I want it now. They're borrowing money and they're saying it's my money. All of you Americans, you want it now. And you can't do that sometimes. So instead of educating people, sometimes you have to fight for it, right? You have to fight for it. This guy ain't doing nothing about that. The military, we're talking about drug trafficking, child trafficking, human trafficking, money laundering. Do you know how much shit that is? Sorry, Mom, but you know how much shit this is? You can't just open it up just that quick to everybody. This is a massive operation. We're talking about dumbs all over the world, okay? There's certain things that I've seen that's classified. We're not supposed to, oh, yeah, laugh, asshole. Laugh. You're a disgrace as a veteran. You're the very reason what we're talking about. These veterans, these people in memorial graves everywhere, and you're laughing about it. It's not funny. Okay. I'm actually embarrassed for you.
So, Derek, please let us know what all this is about, because none of it made sense. Really dodgy. And I haven't heard you talk about that one. So can you please let us know?
But why the whole pomp and circumstance? If you're the real deal, do something. Get your ass down to the border, because I know I do. Okay. I know I'm working with people. No, you need to listen to me now. Sure. Because I'm actually working with people. I'm actually on the phone with somebody. This little guy's not going to fucking protect you, and I'm not going to hurt you. That's not what I'm doing. So you don't need to look at him. Here's the deal. I'm working with people directly that are at the border working. If there's a CIA controller, there's a little pension. Hell yeah. If there's a CIA controller, there's a little pension.
So, now some of the things that Russell J. Gould has said,
what's going on here, mate,
has proven to be true. But now I have some really, really, really big questions about Russell J. Gould now. And this is the thing is, we see this claim for life. We see the bonds, the bond scams that have been going on. We've been talking about that. We've been covering a lot of that stuff on the podcast. So now I've got this great question in my mind. If Russell J. Gould is what he says he is, then how come we're not seeing any direct effect of him supposedly being in charge? You know what I'm saying? There's just a lot there, but I want to end my little segment here because I know Slow Country should be back by now. I want to end this with another feel good, and I thought that this was a great story, yeah, I much respect for this girl to try and find this woman, and you'll understand why. Here we go.
Okay, TikTok, I need your help. I'm hoping that this person is on TikTok. Might be far-fetched, but if it finds her, it finds her. I work at Starbucks part-time. I just got off a shift. I go in at 4 a.m. most of the time. I don't go off till 9:30 or 10 o'clock. I'm okay with that. I love that job. I love that job. I am a morning person. I'm peppy as crap. I'm loud and I'm proud and we love it. This morning I was loud and proud and peppy, and a woman came in. I could tell she was kind of struggling, and I was like, a little extra pep in our step today. We got to get her smiling. So we did. And a couple minutes later, she came in and she gave my manager a note and asked her to hand it to me. And so I was like, okay. It says, I travel a lot for work. That usually means late nights and very early mornings. I haven't had to travel to Little Rock in 6 months until this week. I've been here for 2 days, and so far you have been the only person I have encountered that has been genuinely kind. You were the first face I saw this morning, and you really brightened my day. I'm sure you are exhausted because life, right? That's all of us. But you deserve to know you made a difference in someone's day-to-day just by being kind. I'm also willing to bet you have a great sense of humor. Who doesn't appreciate that? I hope you have the very best day. I know I will, thanks to you. Treat yourself to something nice. I can tell you deserve it. Maybe just not coffee. Haha. Sincerely, the groggy woman at 5 a.m. Do good in this world, and it will always come back to you. If you are that lady, this is my first Mother's Day without my mom. She passed in June. I have the Starbucks job on top of my full-time job because I have a lot of bills to pay and a lot of debt that I have inherited to get under control. And I would be lying to you if I told you that I was not dreading Mother's Day. And so I decided that I was going to buy the urn that I have been looking at and bring my mom home for Mother's Day. And I had no idea how I was going to afford it. But the $200 you put in that note today allows me to spend Mother's Day with my mom. And I appreciate you so much for that. So if you're out there and if you're on TikTok, thank you for the impact that you made on my life. And I hope that you see this and know that you did something that I will never forget. So thank you.
All right. The kindness of strangers, the kindness of our fellow man are sometimes they're burdensome, because every act of kindness comes with something coming at you from the devil, because somebody was kind, and because you were kind, the devil's gonna do something to make your life miserable because you succeeded at bringing joy to somebody's life. But I thought that was an amazing story, and I thought that this would be a good time to share that. Yeah. I'm not crying. You're crying.
There's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in coffee.
Welcome back, brother. Here, let me pull my stuff down. You got your stuff taken care of there?
Yeah, sorry it took me a minute. I had to run down to the mailbox. I was supposed to be getting something from the DOD today. Yeah. And I forgot that I requested a temporary password. That's all it was.
Yeah.
So, I was going to go into the rest of it, but we put out so much financial information today. I don't necessarily want to overwhelm everybody with that. So I will come back on Monday. As soon as we get done here, I will set up the stream for Monday and I will go over the rest of it. But in the meantime, like I said, I would do, I'm going to go ahead and scan these federal financial bank minutes into the computer, and I will post them on X so everybody can see them. But I'm not done yet. I've still got another hour and 10 minutes before I have to leave. So I'm just going to go through some basic things here. You know,
hey, you know what? We should answer this question that Benjamin just put up there.
What's that?
You see his question there?
Why is Trump having all these people at Mar-a-Lago?
Because Mar-a-Lago is a hotel. It's a hotel. Anybody can get a room there. Anybody. There's one section that is sectioned off for him and his family and for his business or whatever you want to call it. Okay. But the rest of it is a hotel that's open to the public. Okay. And when he makes an appearance with some of these people, okay, like he did with Flynn and everything else, everything is for a certain amount of exposure. Okay. Why does Trump bring people into the limelight? Because he wants us to look at those people. Okay. And look at them deeply, not just what we see on the surface, but the things that they've been involved with and, and everything else. And yes, it is Melania's birthday today. So we have to remember that he's not inviting these people to Mar-a-Lago. These people are getting hotel rooms, basically. I think there's 36. I think they said there was 36 hotel rooms. And then there's the residence in which his family lives in. I know that they have sporadic little cabin type things that are spread over the property. So it's a public, or it's a golf course and a hotel. So we have to remember that it's a business, Now, if it was in fact, if it was in fact a winter White House, then you would have, basically people would have to sign in, kind of thing. There would have to be that registry that anybody that goes into the White House has to sign. Everything would be clocked and so on and so forth. But no, we have to remember that it's an established business, and we have to, we have to look at that, in that category. It's not the summer White House. It was considered the winter White House. Is what it was considered, because during the summertime, Washington D.C. is beautiful temperatures, everything else. It's the winter that can suck there a lot. So go ahead.
So yeah, I'm glad you answered that, and I'm glad you brought that up and from the chat. And there's another thing. There's been videos floating around about certain parties at Mar-a-Lago, and I talked to you about this about a week ago, where they had Bob Joyce there at Mar-a-Lago. It might have been Memphis. I can't remember.
No, he was there. He was there. So was Gene Ho.
And so was Charlie Ward.
Yep.
Now, that begs a question. And I talked to you about this, a couple weeks, this last week. Charlie Ward actually took a picture of Bob Joyce. And also, when you played that interview with General Flynn on the Charlie Ward show, we don't know what segment that's in, but as soon as General Flynn said we can't let Trump get back into office. I'm kind of paraphrasing there.
Yeah.
Charlie Ward immediately ended the show.
Ended the show. Yep. Ended the show. It was funny how that happened, huh?
Yeah. So we don't. I'm trying to keep an open mind about everything. All right. We have to. Because if we don't, the minute we shut ourselves off, that's when we start getting deceived. And dig into everything. That's the biggest thing I can tell everybody. Don't take people's word at face value when it comes to these people, because if you do, you're going to get duped.
Yep.
And, and I've said it time and time again on previous shows, don't take my word for it. I can only lead you to the evidence. You have to see it for yourself and do your own research, because there may be something that I missed
that you might find.
That you might find.
Yep. Adding more context to the conversation, adding more evidence to the pile, I guess you would call it. And I think that's that's a huge thing. I mean, a lot of our viewers, so older people, we don't have a lot of young people. We're all kind of we're on top of the hill getting ready to go over the other side, but the fact of the matter is that if you do take a little bit of time and do that research and find things, and the thing is being able to add more context to any of these conversations to about anybody is vital. It really is. So don't be afraid to research. And if you get stuck or you're having a hard time doing it, ask questions from those that know how to research. Let them help you get started, because you may find that you have a knack for it, that maybe we don't have. So we really have to open our minds to the possibilities of what we're capable of doing, what we're really capable of doing. And if we don't take that time to look deeper into things, then the wool is always going to be pulled over our eyes, and we're just going to go along with whatever the mainstream narrative is. And I don't mean just the mainstream media. I mean, even on the social media side, it's the same thing.
Yeah. And the other thing that I want to make known to people. All right. So when you start taking things at face value, you're setting yourself up for failure. And like you said, Hawk, putting things into context is great. A great example, when I was going off about the bill on Saturday being passed, somebody responded to my post and said yes. And also there are provisions in there that after November 15th, the potato can actually forgive half of the loan and the other half can be forgiven at a future date, right? Mm-hmm. And I looked it up and it was in there, and I skipped right over it. So I mean, that's a perfect example. So it's just the small thing, it's the details. And I don't like this expression, but it's true. The devil is always in the details.
Yep.
So it's one of those things, and for people that think there's nothing going on, where's this downfall that we're seeing? Nobody can take down anything this fast. It is impossible. This had to be a well-coordinated effort to make things, as far as the country goes, downhill so fast. And I'm telling you, and we also have to remember, and it was brought up in chat earlier, Steve Mnuchin, right? I brought him up because he was the Secretary of Treasury under Trump. He is a film producer, for God's sake. A film producer. Put that into context with what we're watching. You know, what we're seeing go on right now, you know, the events that have happened and transpired over the last 3.5 years. It's one of those things that it's the details. And I mean, I'm going to shut up about that. I'm going to go into my X feed here because there's some stuff I want to share with you guys that I've come across that I've posted and all that stuff. And some stuff may shock you, and I'm going to bring something up from my X feed, and it's kind of a boilerplate incident. So let me pull that up real quick. There we go. Okay, so we have this in from Jack Straw. Last week in downtown Chattanooga, exclusive, never seen before seen footage filmed at a friend's or from a friend's apartment of military training exercise. Now, I'm going to kind of throw caution to the wind here of military training exercise because I have never known a military training exercise to happen in a downtown environment, okay, into a building like they're doing here. I'm going to play the video so that way you can see it. Men exiting Blackhawks via ropes, flashbangs, and gunfire. Like, what the? Military vets are saying this never happens in an urban area where there could be casualties. What is really going on here? And that is right. That is exactly right. They never do that. It's always in a controlled environment unless they're conducting some kind of an operation. All right. And we got to remember the posse comitatus to where active duty military cannot operate on U.S. soil. Okay. So let me go ahead and play this.
flashbangs just happened right there, top floor. And they are clearing that building room by room. Wow. Shots fired.
Now, I want to note before I keep playing this, let me back it up just a little bit here. All right, you see this right here? Look at the police car. So, let me continue on here. Hawk, what do you have to say about that, man?
Well, if it was an exercise, well, it's I can't say necessarily that it was an exercise because they went into what is a public building with apartments in there, and you saw the flash, the flash grenade go off. You heard a series of weapons fire, um, and then all went quiet. Uh, so, during training exercises, they wouldn't do this into a city. They would have an area set up that is designed to train people for this type of uh, for this infiltration and extraction, type of scenario. So it could, yeah, there are just there's so many possibilities, and there's really no context to what's going on, other than than the visual. The guy says, "Well, I've never seen this happen before," kind of thing. But at the same time, this is also in the same city and in the same area as the data center that had been blown up in there in Nashville not too long ago.
Well, they're at two separate ends of the state. Nashville is at the top of the state, and Chattanooga is at the bottom.
I thought that was wait. I thought that was in Nashville, wasn't
No,
it?
that was Chattanooga.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, the Nashville, the AT&T thing that was bombed was in Nashville.
Right. I thought that was in Nashville.
No, where you seen the helicopter, that was in Chattanooga.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been through Chattanooga. I've been downtown Chattanooga. And I've been downtown Nashville. As a matter of fact, when I was coming back home for leave, I blew a radiator in Nashville, and I had to wait for somebody to come get me, so that way I could have the car towed to Indiana for me to put a radiator in the car.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, oh man. So, and then Jack Straw also put this out. Trump lawyer argues for presidential immunity. He brings up these three examples. Bush lied to Congress to induce a war with Iraq. Obama ordered drone strikes to kill U.S. citizens abroad. And Biden induced foreigners to enter the country illegally.
Yep. So if Trump has no immunity, then neither do they. So that's not from today moving forward. Presidents no longer have immunity. That means any prior, any previous president
bad acts
loses their immunity as well. So it's basically setting precedents. Whether Trump wants to lose his immunity or not, I don't know. But it would be a great way to get those guys into a tribunal. So it could prove to be very interesting, to say the least.
And then here's this. Chaotic scenes unfold as protesters clash with police as they attempt to storm and occupy a building at Emory University with pellet balls and tear gas deployed. And I'm not going to play the video. I'm just going to kind of let you watch it as it plays out here without the sound. But you can see, what's going on. Now, yesterday also they had snipers set up on the roofs at Indiana University in Bloomington, and also Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. So there's that, and I'm going to go into that here right now, and I'll come back to this because I'm going to post a hard truth that nobody really wants to hear, but they kind of need to hear it anyway, because it's going to put some context and some insight to what is really in the mindset of what could possibly have led up to this event. So, didn't we all see this coming? This is in reference to Trash Discourse's post. So here it comes. Republicans, especially Mike Johnson, approves Israel aid. The police state comes down and clamps down on peaceful protests, ignoring a Democrat majority in the Senate and approval from Democrat Biden. Republicans are the enemy. This is their narrative. Also, what the fuck is this shit? Cities burned to the ground or burned for months in 2020, and cops now are authorized for this. This is the op. Okay. So let me go back here. And this is my response. Didn't we all see this coming, though? Do you really think cops and mayors want a repeat of the summer of love? I'm not by any means condoning or condemning the actions taken by the cops. I'm just saying, or trying to add a little bit of insight to what may be going through the minds of the local government. However, with 2020 not far in the rearview mirror, and politicians not doing a damn thing about it, the news calling them mostly peaceful protests, cops may still have that looming in the back of their mind. We also have to remember that this is an election year. This will definitely be a hot button talking point for the candidates, but we can bank on that. One side will say, oh, they were innocent and peaceful protesters, like in 2020 with a car burning in the background. Now, from what I've seen, it looks as though the local government were trying to push this to a boiling point, posting snipers on the roof of schools. And now this video, I'm with you. I smell op all over this. It's going to be a hot summer. Any thoughts, Hawk?
No. Other than the fact that both Elon Omar and Rashid Tlaib and one of the other of the squad all appeared at different colleges supporting the pro-Palestine Hamas insurgents. And that's what we have to call them. We have to call them insurgents. I'm not going to call them students. They're insurgents.
Yes.
Whether they know what they're doing or not, they're involved in it. They're insurgents.
Yes. So, and then the TikTok bill, right? I seen a comment in the chat, and this is why they want to ban TikTok. Now, I want you to listen to this because, and this came out from Wall Street Apes, all right? Wow. Congressman Michael McCall, who wrote the TikTok ban bill, invested $1.15 million into Meta after writing the bill. On March 3rd, he authored the TikTok ban bill. On March 22nd, he invested $150,000 in Meta. On the 26th, he invested another $150,000. On the 28th, he invested another $150,000. So in about 3 weeks after writing the TikTok ban bill, this man invested $450,000 in TikTok's competitor. Oh, and then what did he do once he saw that his TikTok ban bill was going to be included with the Ukraine funding? Well, on April 1st, he invested $350,000 more in Meta, followed by the 5th, where he invested that again. Then about a week later, of course, he voted yes on the bill he wrote. So within the span of 40 days, this dude wrote the TikTok ban bill, proceeded to invest $450,000 in the competitor, and then invested another $700,000, making this total investment in Meta at $1.15 million. And then he voted yes. Now, obviously, the word most people are using here is suspicious, but the word he should be being used is criminal. This man wrote the freaking bill to ban TikTok, proceeded to invest more than $1 million in its competitor, whose stock will skyrocket if TikTok actually gets banned, and then voted on the bill to ban it. Are you paying attention yet? So I'm going to play this because this guy, he really...
Liberals, get your popcorn out. I'm about to shit on a Republican. This is Representative Michael McCall. And you may not know him, but if you're on this app, you should, because he wrote the bill to ban TikTok. But he's also done some other really interesting shit recently. So here's Mike's recent questionable activity. On March 3rd, he authored the TikTok ban bill. Then on March 22nd, he invested $150,000 in Meta. On the 26th, he invested another $150,000. And on the 28th, he invested another $150,000. So about 3 weeks after writing the TikTok ban bill, this man invested $450,000 in TikTok's competitor. Oh, and then what did he do once he saw his TikTok ban was going to be included with all the Ukraine funding? Well, on April 1st, he invested $350,000 more in Meta, followed by the 5th, where he invested that again. And then about a week later, of course, he voted yes on the bill he wrote. So within the span of 40 days, this dude wrote the TikTok ban bill, proceeded to invest $450,000 in the competitor, and then invested another $700,000, taking his total investment in Meta to $1.15 million. And then he voted yes. Now, obviously, the word most people are using here is suspicious, but the word we should be using is criminal. This man wrote the fucking bill to ban TikTok, proceeded to invest more than $1 million in its competitor, whose stock will skyrocket if TikTok actually gets banned, and then voted on the bill to ban it. Are you paying attention yet?
Yep.
Yep. So, I mean, there's quite a bit here. And some of it, some of it I'm going to play, some of it, I'm not. But, it's one of those things that people have been duped, and here they are writing the bills so that way they can make a buck off of it. It's sickening. And then this put out by Machiavelli. If you haven't figured it out by now, our entire government is a huge mafia who launders our taxpayer money right back to themselves through foreign and endless wars. They all hate you and could care less if you suffer and die horrible deaths as long as they get rich. That could not be closer to the truth. So, if we look at the stock here, from the last month, it's dipped down quite a bit for Meta. There's a lot of graphs and stuff here. I'm just going to keep going here. And then Rand Paul. I think you played this the other day, didn't you, Hawk?
Yeah, about the which one was
how the Ukraine bill, the
yeah.
money for Ukraine is more than
the entire budget for the United States Marine Corps. Yeah.
I think you played this one yesterday too. Yeah.
But that's a good one. I would share that if I were you.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. But yeah, so for those of you that haven't seen this, it's absolutely just amazing. I'm going to
actively vote against you for anyone who did
attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe.
Tic-tac term limits, Nance. I am done letting a bunch of corrupt raisins who have never contributed anything useful to society make the rules for me. I am now a single issue voter. If you voted for this, not only will I not vote for you, I will actively vote against you for anyone who did not. And I would do this even if I was not on TikTok, because you are trying to ban an application that half the country uses to get their news 180 days before an election. And you think that we don't know that that is the reason. I'm about to tell you how the people feel. We feel that right now, you are the greatest threat to national security. We also feel you are the most inept, corrupt, and useless group of employees in the entire country. And you can't seem to remember that you're employees. So if you're an incumbent and you voted for this, start looking for a job, because you're done.
Attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe.
Tic-tac term limits, Nance. I am done letting a bunch of corrupt raisins who have never contributed.
So yeah, I completely agree with her. It's one of those things that really just, oh man. And this is what I was talking about a little bit ago with the snipers. Just let me pull this up here. So, and this came out from Raw's Alerts yesterday. Snipers have been spotted on the tops of the roofs at Ohio and Indiana universities as pro-Palestine protests causing an uproar. As dozens of protests break out across the United States at numerous universities, students and protesters have reported sightings of snipers on the rooftops at Ohio State University and Indiana University. It says Bloomingdale, but it's Bloomington. Causing an uproar. Some comments express concern, stating that putting snipers on the roof against students is exactly what police states do. This is absolutely outrageous. However, the presence of the snipers is likely for safety reasons in case of any potential threats of emergencies. I'm going to disagree with that because it seems as though that this was a boilerplate incident. As soon as people started seeing the snipers, is when things started getting out of hand. So, like I said, it's going to be a hot button topic. We know it will, but you can clearly see right here and right here, and they're just flashing the same pictures over and over again. But you can clearly see the snipers in place. So, I mean, it's one of those things. Should it have been done? No. And like I said, I think it's probably more of a boilerplate incident than anything else.
Steve's asking, they're all buying property outside of the U.S. Why? Because they need some place to run to. But the fact of the matter is they're not going to be able to get out. That's going to be the big thing. And the other thing is that most of them have dual citizenship. I think it's 91% of Republicans and Democrats in office today have dual citizenship with Israel. Okay. So we know where their loyalties lie. I think there's 5% of them have dual citizenship with Ukraine. Why do they want to get Putin out of Ukraine? Because they don't want to have to deal with Putin if they have to go there. Oh my God, that would be so awful. Yeah. And for a war-torn country, it seems to be an awful lot of parties going on in all the bars there in Kiev. The nightlife there is no different than New York City, Los Angeles, anything like that. Even Las Vegas. Well, this is the thing is that I think both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party need to disappear. And it should just be we the people, period. And I don't think that there should be any parties that way there. Then the political backing that comes from these narrative groups would be completely eliminated, and it would also eliminate anybody's foothold on anybody's neck. Going into office, and that's a big part of it. But the other thing is we have to stop the ability for people to be entrapped into certain situations that would compromise them while they're in office. And this is the thing is we have Zoom, we have StreamYard, we have all these different companies that provide with high technology. There's absolutely no reason for these people to be in Washington, D.C. There could be an electric panel set up where they can vote from whatever state that they're in. And they don't need to go to Washington, D.C. The thing is once they get to Washington, D.C., that's where the corruption sets in its 100 percentile. Okay. And we need to eliminate that. We need to eliminate lobbyists. 100% of the lobbyists got to go.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, most of them are backed by the Mossad and the Israeli government. So and the corporations. So we have to eliminate how these people work. And if they try to get back in there, then we need to eliminate that corporation. If you're caught trying to manipulate our political system, then it's time for it to go. NGOs, that's another one. Nonprofits, such as that, are more than 60 to 70% of all trafficking worldwide are done by NGOs. So NGOs are not good. They're not good for the company. It should boil down to our local communities should be their own NGOs. We should be taking care of our neighbors. We should be taking care of our cities, our communities. And we're not. Because why? Because our hands are tied by our local government. Look at how many people have been arrested in the last few years just for feeding the homeless. People going out. There was a veteran who's also a minister, and he was out giving out sandwiches to homeless people I believe it was that he was in Florida, and he was arrested. The cops arrested him. And after court, and a whole bunch of people showing up for the court, that changed everything about it,
Do you remember God's Soldiers, Hank? He used to come
Benjamin
on.
Kunderi, if you listen to Lynn Wick, you're nuts. You're nuts. Okay. And to think that Godzlewski is JFK's great grandson, these are people are being duped every which way. We have so many people who have been duping the community for so long, and that's why I started doing shows in regards to exposing them more and more and more. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is by sharing the narrative. I mean, it's like he says that he is Ezra Cohen Watnick's roommate from college, but then he says that he's his twin brother. Okay. He looks absolutely nothing like Ezra Cohen Watnick's. Okay. Nothing
No,
like it.
but
Okay.
he does look like a skinny version of Alexander Vindman. Now, if you said he was his brother, I'd believe it because they're both benders.
I would kind of, the way that he acts, I would believe that too. Linwick is, But the thing is, you report him, Benjamin. Does Linwick ever get taken down? No. Still here, still playing. Okay. If you're on telling the truth, that's when you lose your channel. Okay. And it's why I've gone through 25 of them, 25 channels I've gone through, and it's, and I'll keep doing it. I'm going to keep making them, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep going. Nothing's going to stop it.
And I just want to say the reason it's been taking me so long to put content together, I've had a lot going on for one thing, but I want to verify everything I put out because I don't want bad information getting out there because that just confuses everybody. I don't want that. I want to bring the proof with me so I can show you guys and get you guys to actually see it for yourself and drop it in the chat for you guys so that way you can research it yourself, and if I miss something you can see it and you can bring it up to me and other people. So it's one of those things, and like you said earlier, it brings context to the conversations that we should be having.
Kelly, and you have to it's all one word. Hawks Mustard Seeds 25. It's all one big word. That's the way that SlowCountry got it set up for me. So he didn't know to separate them. That's why people have a hard time finding it. But we're doing pretty good with it for people not being able to find it. So
yeah, I think you got close to 1,000 people now.
I'm not sure. I know we have pretty close to like 400 viewers a day. And it's not really about the numbers. It's about the information that we're putting out anyway. So, that's the big thing. And Bonnie, where States Assembly is concerned, you got to be careful even with that. There's a lot of people running scams in regards to that as well. Just like that lady in Arizona who claimed that she served all those people in Maricopa County. She never served anybody. They were already out of, they were already adjourned and out of, out of the hearing room there when she made that video claiming that she served all of them and everything else. Not only that, but nothing was notarized. So even if she had served them, there would have been no standing because there was actually absolutely no notary done on any of the signatures that were given and established. So she's a scammer too. We covered that yesterday. So if you want to look at yesterday's podcast, you can see that. And we covered that quite extensively. I have many questions about a lot of these people, and it's and this is the thing is I don't trust any of them. I do not trust any of them. If they're running commercial advertisements regularly, you know, it's I can't back you. I can't back you. And I won't, because I just, guys like LT and Dave from X22. I've even cut back from playing their content because of the fact that I'm already covering 90% of what they play days before they even cover it. Days before they cover it. And we're already talking about it. We're already covering it. So why sit back and watch the exact same content being played by somebody else? But it's, it all boils down to, all this money, now, where I'm concerned, it's, you guys have helped, feed the dogs, and you've helped keep gas in the tanks. But other than that, I have no extravagant life, and I sure as hell ain't making, $3.99 per person who's coming in to watch a viewing on a paywall, kind of video. These guys who have hundreds of thousands of viewers on these behind these paywalls. Well, understand this: if it's a .tv, okay, 99 cents of that goes to the platform. Okay, the other $3 goes to the individual. So that's $300,000 a month. Okay, if you got more than 100,000, you got 200,000 or 300,000. Guess what? Same thing. These people are making bank. So, and I believe I just got a message from SlowCountry. He said, SlowCountry says, I'll be back in a minute or two. My foot hit the plug for the computer and unplugged it. Yeah, good job there, pal. No. Yeah, it's yeah, funny. It's and you guys thought that I was the only one who gets disconnected. No, but see, Benjamin, that's the thing. You understand that support doesn't always have to be a monetary thing. Support is being in chat, having great conversations, sharing information with each other, sharing links. Okay. That's how people best help each other in chat on my podcast. Okay. Now, any financial help that comes along is great. It's always welcome, but at the same time, it's not what it's about. It's not about how much money can I raise today kind of thing. It's about, how much information can I give you guys before I overload you and make you need to go take a nap. Okay. That's why I try to, if I'm just doing my X feed, I try to do like 2-3 hours of that and then give you one podcast that's not mine. And the thing is half the time when I do that, half of the stuff that they're playing is stuff that I just, that I showed you yesterday or the day before or the day before. And it just goes to show you that we're more on top of the news today. Okay. What is real news today than what these guys who are doing these big podcasts are. Okay. And it's crazy. Now I understand that, these guys, they get the big names, they get to, to have the big names come in and do the interviews and everything else. Those people would never talk with a guy like me because I'd be asking them, I'd be digging in the questions that you want answered, and in most cases you don't get that from any of them. It's just the narrative between the host and the person who's being interviewed. When we had Donovan Lamb on from Lightning Springs Ranch, your questions were the questions that we were asking them. Okay. The questions that you were either sending to me or you were posting in chat, were the questions that we asked him. Okay, and you got the answers to your questions. Those are the kind of things that's the type of format that we have to have involved in interviewing these people, because of the fact that we need answers, and we need honest answers, and we need them right then, off the cuff, not something that's pre-prepared. Okay. Or, I don't want to write down 20 questions, email them to you, and then have you email me back, say, well, I can answer 10 of those. We're going to avoid the other 10 because I can't go into that stuff. A couple more questions, kind of thing. That's just, it's not right. That's not the way that it should be. That's not conducive to our community in gaining a foothold in information that we need in moving forward. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. I wasn't expecting that to happen. I kind of stretched my legs out to stretch a little bit, and my foot hit the stupid plug to the power strip that the computer plugged into. So it took me a minute to get back, but I'm back. But yeah.
Don't you just hate when the computer shuts down like that, and you get that little spinny thing that goes and goes and goes and goes, and you're just like looking at the screen, what the fuck? My computer never takes this long to reboot, to boot back up. But when the power gets cut like that, that little spinny thing comes up as you're waiting for Windows to load, and it's annoying as all get out.
Oh, it really is, man. And I have a lot of stuff on the computer, so it takes it that much longer to boot up, especially when it's trying to reopen the tabs that I had open. So it makes it really kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was going to play this thing from Ian Carroll.
But go for it. I need to go to the bathroom, so go for it.
Now, I will say this. This guy, Ian Carroll, if you don't follow him on X, this guy puts out a lot of stuff. He really does. He is one of the, and he brings back the receipts with him also. So when he does financial stuff, he's always showing it, as he's going through it, for one thing. But in this case, he's talking about SA and, a whole bunch of stuff that we're not supposed to talk about on YouTube, but, screw YouTube, because the information needs to get out there. And with some people, YouTube is the only platform that they have. So, it's one of those things. I'm going to share this here so you guys can see it. Now, this is extremely disturbing. I will say that. So, if you don't want to hear it or whatever, just kind of mute it for a minute, or actually 10. And then, about 10. And then, it's kind of disturbing, but at the same time, we're trying to put an end to all of the trafficking and all of the sexual abuse and stuff like that. And this is the only way we can do it, is to expose it. Because without exposure, nothing's going to get done. So without further ado, warning, extremely disturbing video. Do not watch if sensitive to SA or harm to children. Alander Markman was born into a global satanic cult and was ritually abused and tortured throughout his childhood. In this clip, he describes how he met Jeffrey Epstein and how the network Epstein was part of overlapped with satanic death cults and far more than the mainstream would lead you to believe. It is clear from his testimony that this is a vast and extremely powerful global network of satanic ritual abuse of children by at least the thousands. In other clips, he talks about his time at a breeding compound in Mexico, his repeated torture that dissociated his identity, and being forced to take part in child cage matches to the death, all before he even turned 13. Yes, you're reading that correctly. If you don't believe this could possibly be real, I encourage you to watch the entire episode here. And I'm going to link that in the chat real quick. And I will put it in here. And you may want to download it in case it mysteriously disappears from the internet. The implications of this are beyond massive. Think about the wealth and power involved in this cult network in order for them to do these things. Starts to make sense how Epstein's network reached all the way into the White House, the royal family, and beyond. The world is run by evil pedophiles, and they pretend they're normal people. I'm no expert in body language, but I see no signs of deception and see no reason for him to make up such a horrific story. Judge for yourself. Correction, I was mistakenly naming him Annika Lucas in my previous post. That is the name of the woman interviewing him. My B friends, remember, don't trust anyone on the internet. Do your own research and verify everything for yourself. And that is what me and Hawk were talking about earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and play this and let you guys hear it for yourself.
As I approached being an older teenager after I'd been a breeder for already 3 or 4 years, when I was around 16, it was made clear to me that they wanted me to assume positions of authority and greater power, that they wanted me to become a handler and a programmer, maybe someone like Louis, someone who could, basically they saw that I had great aptitude for training, for teaching, for guiding, and they wanted to use that to guide people into these forms of depravity. And for that to work, it became increasingly important for them to have my consent, because you can't, essentially they couldn't trust me to do the job unsupervised unless they had my full consent. I mean, full, I don't know about full, but you know, they had to ensure that I wasn't just doing it because I was being coerced. It had to come from inside me. I mean, any teacher of anything who's good at what they do will tell you that's necessary for teaching, regardless of the subject, regardless of whether it's ethical or not.
Yeah.
So I think there's some wisdom there. So essentially there were a period of years, especially it was very heavy when I was about 15, 16, where they were presenting me with anything they could discern that I desired, absolutely anything. I mean, you know, I would desire some actress, for instance, and she'd just be brought in for me to rape if I wanted, or, you know, anything that I thought of. I mean, you know, like, oh, you want to...
We're speaking within the narrow confines of your breeder training, of course, you know,
yeah.
like you desire, but then you're completely programmed. So,
this is
you know,
true.
yes, I
mean, desire, I eventually learned that my desires were much broader than I had been led to believe, thankfully, and I appreciate that grounding. It's, yeah, I mean, I went through very intensive, basically, attempts to entice, I guess. They took me to private islands in the Bahamas, showed me basically how some of the trainers were living.
would that be like the Jeffrey Epstein Island?
Among others, yeah.
You were there,
I was there.
and he owned it at that time, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
And you came across him too, by any chance?
I did.
I've heard a lot about him privately from people.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's relatively safe to name these days.
Was there anything that stood out that since that is something that people know, since someone that people know was involved with these things, is there something that you remember about him?
It's been a while since I've thought about him. He was never, I didn't get that close to him personally. I would just see him around. I mean, when I was being taken to these islands, I would see all kinds of popular and famous people. About Epstein himself, He was really able to switch on a dime from, absolute murderous rage killing to just completely pleasant and like affable. And his, I guess his programming was more successful than mine. Because he was very quick on his feet and totally changed to suit the situation always. That's probably why he was in the role that he was in. Yeah, I remember that about him. Tremendously versatile and very good code switcher. Just really, he could deal with the high-minded and the low-minded, and just kind of bring everybody to their basis level and send them on their way to to experience whatever horrible things they might want. So, I mean, it was a well-run operation. Obviously, it wasn't just him. Like huge numbers of people on these islands specifically, incredibly disciplined staff. Not that I'd want to use discipline for things like that, but
No, but I mean, there's a lot of science behind it, and it's it works.
Yeah,
that's what you mean, right?
Yeah.
That the staff is very well disciplined. Like everybody knows exactly what they do, and it works.
Yeah. So I can't speak that much to him because I never had that much of his attention. It's just like sizing me up for something and then immediately on to the next person. So I can't say I was ever spending much time.
So
with
that
him.
was on his island, particularly if he sized you up for something and he went immediately on to the next. That was on
Yeah.
his island.
Yeah.
So this is at the time when you're a teenager and you're being enticed. You're being shown what you can have. Basically, if you follow along,
Yeah.
you can be like him.
Yeah. Needless to say, that was not so appealing to me, but it's really gross. I mean, the amount of wealth that was just on display. I mean, literally anything you want. I could have owned my own island if I wanted, if I cared about that sort of stuff more. I'd probably still be in the cult, but thankfully I don't. So basically it came to a point where they just couldn't use me anymore without consent. Or not for any role that they would want me for. Essentially, they basically said, we're done with you unless you want to join and make this your own thing.
Yeah, so I've heard about like the 5 I wills, in the programming that the children, go through these steps. And normally at 13 is the last I will. And then the 13 is then the age that they become, let's say, willing participants in all the harm.
I guess that rings true for me because they were trying to convince me very aggressively from 13 to 16 to convert or whatever you call it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like I was innocent at this time. I had plenty on my conscience, plenty that I was forced to do, beyond just the cage matches. I couldn't even begin to describe all of it, the rapes and killings that I was forced to participate in. So it's not like I, was necessarily above any of this. I had sadistic murderer alters who, when in the right circumstances, on the right drugs, with the right handler, easily could kill dozens of people. So I can empathize with that experience and that sort of mentality. Yeah, so I don't wish to indicate that I'm above any of that, but because you just...
Well, we can't. Like, no child goes through that experience that is prepared to be part of it. I mean, it was also the same for me in the year, again, 9 to 10 only, but, discovered at age 9 and then trained for 1 year, but there was a lot of promises. So I think it's the same, the promises that were made about what my life was going to be like. It had a lot to do with wealth.
Yeah.
Had a lot to do with, the fame, of course, but the respect I was always going to get, the apartment, the best apartment in Paris, and the house on the Côte d'Azur and the yacht. I mean, it was all told me repeatedly that I would picture, this very easy and luxurious lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot to say no to. Just to mention it, like, we were children and we said, no, I don't think so. That takes something,
It takes guts for sure. There was a lot of back and forth for me from 13 to 16. I mean, each time I said no in a different way, I would be tortured in a different way. And they would try to basically kill the alter who had said no and create another alter that they could talk to start the conversation over. So
you actually went through a lot of torture.
I did.
Because you didn't want to.
Yeah.
From 13 to 16, you did not give them the last I will, it sounds like.
I didn't. No.
So, with that, like I said, you know, if we don't know about it, we can't expose it, but we have to expose it if we know about it. That's the only way we're going to get this kind of crap to stop.
So, somebody was saying, and they wanted this guy to be a teacher. Well, this is the thing. They wanted the child to be a teacher to other children, basically to instead of the adults being the one to groom the children, the grooming was being done by the children themselves.
Yes, this is a horrific story, but the thing is, if we don't expose it, it's going to keep going on, and it doesn't even have to be necessarily about Epstein. There's other people out there, because the Epstein shit has been, you know, pretty much dismantled and taken down, I would assume, because after his arrest and Maxwell's arrest and trial and all that, but somebody had to take over for him. So we got to expose the darkness where we see it, otherwise the darkness grows.
Yeah, trafficking went from $150 million industry a year to $150 to $160 billion a year industry. That's a big web to be taken down, and that's not something that can be done in a short period of time. It takes years to completely disable, disembowel, the organizations. Not necessarily the people being disemboweled, but people should be disemboweled. Absolutely no doubt about that. I mean, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico now have a thing where you can be castrated for rape, and for child molestation. And there was a guy who they were going to chemically castrate him, but he chose the option of having them physically removed, and as part of his punishment. Does that change the mentality of the individual, though? I don't believe so. I believe that the urges of that sexual nature will always remain.
Yes. Also, you know, all this depravity we've learned about, you know, especially, you know, not necessarily on this stream, but any stream, you know, and we got to cleanse ourselves of that shit, because it sticks with you forever if you don't. And it's one of those things that, you know, it just sticks with you. And like I said, the darkness will continue to grow so long as you don't shine light on it. If you shine light on it, that darkness will cease to exist.
Yep.
But I want to end the stream on a positive note, because it's 3 o'clock. I got to go get the kids here in a minute. But Hawk, can you pray us out, man? I mean, everything we've learned today with this, you know, the operations going on, and the money stuff at the beginning. I think people, you know, we all need that after this.
Father God, our creator, the creator of all things, that of both the heaven and the earth, we ask for your protection for each of our viewers, and for clarity, guidance, assistance in helping people find what they're looking for, and to be able to discern the truths of the matter. We ask for protection for everybody's families, for the children, especially the children, Lord. We ask for protection financially to stop these evil ones from destroying our lives, our livelihoods. Help those that are seeking work to find work. Help those who are employed to stay where they are, and to be able to complete the tasks in front of them. We ask for those who are older and are on disability or Social Security to be able to, Lord, to be able to make ends meet, be able to meet their obligations and responsibilities, to care for themselves, Lord. We ask that you work your powers over those in Congress and in the Senate. Let them know that you are in control. We need your interference, Lord. We ask that you go into our state houses and begin to clean up everything going on in there, Lord. Make everything transparent so that the people see what is truly going on, Lord. We ask that you take care of any medical needs that these people have, Lord. So many people have disabilities and injuries, illnesses, and Lord, we ask for your healing hands to be placed upon them. We ask that you refresh our armor so that we can continue to stand day for day for the things that we believe that you are doing for us and have placed in front of us to do your work, Lord. And we thank you for all the things that you have given us. We thank you for the blessings that you are going to impose and lay upon each of us, Lord. And we ask this in the name of your precious gift, you know, that sacrifice that you made in Christ's name. Amen. And your will be done. And I hate that word amen. I hate it more and more every day. I sometimes remember not to say it, and then at other times I forget.
Yeah, it's one of those habits it's hard to break.
Yeah, it is. It's a hard habit to break. Didn't Chicago say something about that?
Yeah. Yeah. But Hawk, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you for bringing us out, man. It's always good to end something, the stream like this on a positive note. And I'm going to give you a call after I end the stream because I got to get in the truck and go get the kids. But yeah. So with everybody in here, I love you. And I want you to have a good rest of your day and safe weekend. So I'll see you Monday.
Peace.